Hello, algebra students. Today is the day you have probably been waiting the entire semester for, and I am kidding because I know it's possibly not going to be one of your favorite days. Today we're going to talk about writing two-step equations from word problems. And of course we're going to go on to solve those, but what I have found for most students, the solving is really not the issue, it's the writing the equation that is the difficulty. So we're just going to take it really slow. Okay, so let's talk about our learning targets. First thing we need to be able to do is to define a variable or variables in the context of a verbal situation. And then we're going to write and solve the two-step equation from a word problem. Now let's go back to this defining a variable. Remember, you're going to choose what letter you're going to use, and then you're going to tell by writing down what that letter is going to stand for in this particular problem. So again, Mrs. Bat's rule, we're not going to panic, but we're going to put our pencil down, hands up, and we are going to think before we write. So I've come up with this like red light, yellow light, green light analogy to kind of help you think of the steps. And I will tell you straight up, the most important thing you can do is to not panic, take a deep breath, and just take one step at a time. Okay, so when I say red light, we're going to stop. That's that whole pencils down, hands up thing. Okay, so let's say what I mean by this. We're really going to focus on the words. We're going to read that problem. Now, again, we have our pencils down. We're going to read it. We're going to make sense of it. We're going to see if we can cover up the problem and explain it to someone else. All right, and what I mean by that, instead of reading it word for word, you need to be able to paraphrase what's happening. Okay, Bobby went to the store. He wants to buy some pop and chips. So that means we're going to have to add together the cost. So when he checks out, they're going to add together the cost of all the things he buys, right? So make it into a real world situation that's not scary at all, okay? So we're going to read it, and we're going to read it again. And we're going to read it again if we need to, until we get to the point where we really understand it and can explain it to someone else. All right. Once we've done that several times, now we can go back and highlight important information. Okay. So your best little friends here are going to be highlighters. You may want to have a couple different colors, which I'm looking for. Here's, all right. Have an assortment of colors so that you can highlight important information. You may want to come up with a color scheme that anything that's multiplication or division might be yellow, anything that looks like addition or subtraction might be pink, anything that looks like a total amount or something to be by itself might be green. Decide on a color coding system and use it every single time, okay? So what do I want to look for? What keywords tell me to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, all right? We want to think about what operations are happening. All right, so like I just said, in that shopping example, we know that if we go shopping, we will have to add together the prices of all the items that we buy. All right, so we would know with our real world experience, we're going to add. Then we also know that if we buy more than one of the same thing, let's say I decide to buy 5 cans of green beans, I know I'm going to have to multiply that cost times 5. Okay, so use your world experience. The other thing is we also have a notes page in your last notes packet that you will be allowed to use on this test that has some keywords on there. All right, so identify those words. Now, any switch words. Remember, we said less than. All right, so that's a clue. Remember, less than always seems backwards from the way it's written. And then lastly, we want to think about any words that tell us where the equal sign goes, okay? Because we are writing an equation. So if I were to say 3 times a number is 15, right? So that would be is, was, costs. Okay, anything that kind of tells you like we're going to be done when we finish putting the other number on there. All right, so that's red light. Stop. We do all this thinking. All right, so I'm going to say think. Now, once we really understand and we've marked up our problem, now we're going to get ready, which is our yellow light. Okay, and this is where we're going to define a variable, and we're going to say let, and let's say let C equal the number of cookies Charlie bought. Okay, so remember, we're going to say let, then we're going to say what letter we're using, and then equals, we're going to use words to explain what that letter is going to stand for. Okay, how do we figure this out? A really huge clue is, what is the question asking? So what are you looking for? So you always want to go to the very end of the question, okay? Find that question mark or period, find the question mark or the period at the very end, and then work your way back to the capital letter and read it again. It might say, how many cookies did Charlie buy? What is Betty's number? There's always some phrase in there that gives you a clue what it is you're looking for, and then that's how you pick what you need a letter for. Okay? Then you need to think too about what's missing. Like, what is the key piece of information I don't know? That's another way to look for the variable. What is it I don't know? Okay, once you've defined your variable, now we're ready for the green light where we can go, meaning we're actually going to write the equation. But even then, I want you to think of it in terms of an expression. All right, so we might think like twice as many cookies plus 1 equals 75. Okay, so first we write the key part, right? This is what's described in the word problem, and then we're going to take that equal sign, which is like is, was, costs, that kind of thing, equal, and then we're going to put a number on the other side based on what the problem tells us, okay? So we have to think about which numbers go together. That goes back to whether we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And then make sure we're putting the right number in the right place. All right. So for example, if I said double the amount of cookies, that would be times 2, not plus 2. Okay. So we need to make sure we do that. And then what's the same? What goes on each side of the equal sign? Okay. The last thing I want to talk about, and we're going to have a problem with this, that we go over it. Draw a model to help you make sense of the situation. Sometimes just taking the time to write it down, draw a picture, okay? Some of you have very, very creative brains, and so you've got to think of a way to make this word problem make sense to you with the way that you think best, okay? So if you're artistic, or if you're analytical, or you work whether with pictures, let's take these words that can be a little confusing and make a model, all right? So, are we ready to try our first one? Okay, here we go. So, again, remember, red light, words and thinking. Green light, or yellow light, get ready, define your variable. Green light, write your equation. Okay, so here's our first example. 3 less than double an unknown number is 39. Find the unknown number, okay? So, let me make sure I understand this first. 3 less than double an unknown number is 39. Okay, I just read it out loud again. This is sort of just like a number problem, so there's not a lot to understand here. It's not like I can use my real world experience unless I like to play number games. So let me focus on the numbers. It says 3 less than. Okay, so I see less than, and I already know that that means I'm going to have to do some subtraction. All right, then double. That means multiply by 2. And then is always going to be my equal sign. Okay, now, what am I looking for? Go to the very end. All right, we're going to go to the very end. Find that period at the very end, and we're going to work our way all the way back to the capital letter at the beginning of that sentence. And I'm going to look at that. It says, find the unknown number. Didn't I find out the other day that this green highlighter wasn't great in videos? Sorry about that. All right, find the unknown number. This is what I'm looking for. So this is what I need a variable for. All right, so I'm going to say let and equal the unknown number. All right, so now I've thought about it. I've defined a variable, and now green light, I can write the equation. So let's take a look at what's happening. 3 less than, remember, this is one of my switch words. Double an unknown number. So we know when we use order of operations, my doubling my number is going to really come before my subtraction. So let's double my unknown number. My unknown number is n. So if I double it, And then 3 less than that, I have to take away 3. That is 39. Now, at this point, I can solve this. So add 3. All right. Write down all the steps. Make sure we balance the equation, which means do the same thing to both sides. So notice, I added 3 to both sides to undo this subtraction. I brought down my 2n. I finished this math. I divided both sides by 2 using a fraction bar to get rid of the 2. And I get n equals 21. All right, so now I can answer the question. The unknown number (21). All right, now we always use some kind of a label, all right, or a sentence to make sense of it. In this case, we could have just said it's 21 because it's kind of like they asked a question, we found it. All right, so now you're going to try this one. So stop the video on your end, and you try to do this, and then I'm going to write out the actual work, okay? So pause the video. Okay, so at this point, if you are still watching, this means that you have done this on your own. So Mary is thinking of a number. 4 more than half of her number is 10. What is Mary's number? Okay, so more than tells me I'm going to be adding. Half means I'm going to divide by 2. Okay, so we're going to use a fraction bar that. And then there's my equal sign. All right. What is Mary's number? All right, so remember, to find our variable, I'm going to go to the question mark at the end, work my way back to the capital at the beginning. What is Mary's number? That's the question I need to answer, so I need a variable for that. So I'm going to say let m equal Mary's number. And you can use capital letters for variables if you want to. All right, so let's write the equation. 4 more than half of her number. So 4 more than half of her number is 10. Okay? So some of you like to put the line through the equal sign. Let's go ahead. So now the first thing we have to do is get rid of this 4. We're going to subtract 4 on both sides. Bring down the m over 2. Bring down the equal sign. 10 minus 4 is 6. Now, to undo this division here, we have to multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. Going to get m is equal to 12. And again, we have to actually answer the question. So we don't use m equals 12 when we're talking in polite company. Like if you go to the donut shop and they say, hey, how many donuts do you want to order? You don't go d equals 5. You just say, I want 5 donuts. So we use normal people language to do this. Mary's number is 12. There we have it. End of this video, and I will do the rest in a different video.